Coming up on the show, we seem to be stuck in a weather pattern that doesn't want to end. We're live on the scene of yet another tornado touchdown. We'll have the very latest for you on that. Also, recent acts of violence on MARTA trains and stations has one defense attorney calling for more to be done to boost safety. And if you're driving around the metro area this weekend, heads up, one major project is about to open some more lanes to help ease your commute. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take, or give their take on today's top stories. We also try to have a little bit of fun as well. But first, we are under the weather. The 11Alive weather impact alert. We have to brace for more storms coming our way. Could be some damaging winds, also some heavy rain, frequent lightning. All that could be coming our way today. Take a look at this. Thursday's weather producing a tornado in Henry County. You can see it spinning across I-75 yesterday, passing right in front of those cars right there. Heading into yesterday, the National Weather Service had recorded 13 tornadoes during the month of May. That's more than what has been recorded for the first 4 months of the year combined. 11Alive's Ariana Maniz is on the ground this morning in Henry County, where a tornado touched down in one neighborhood where she is out there in Locust Grove. And Ariana, you saying that it damaged some homes, even leveled one, right?
Yeah, that's right, Chesley. That tornado hit this Locust Grove neighborhood with little to no warning to neighbors in this area. It moved through a portion of this neighborhood, leveling, what's interesting, only one home. Take a look. This is the aftermath of that tornado. That one home leveled. Two people were inside. One of them, an 18-year-old, he was thrown from the second story in critical condition this morning. This tornado touched around 3:30 p.m., tearing through the Laurel Creek neighborhood. We spoke to Henry County officials. They say at least 13 structures damaged, destroying two, and that one home hit so hard, 18-year-old Malachi thrown at least a football field away from his home in the wooded area right behind the home. And we spoke to his father, Trey Cheney, overnight. He is an actor from the show The Wire. He was also hurt. He was released from the hospital. His father says that Malachi was unconscious when neighbors found him, but is now fighting hard for his life in ICU. He says his son Malachi is still in critical condition with broken ribs and a fractured facial bone. Trey posted a very emotional video on social media saying that he wished he could be in his son's place right now. Take a listen.
I'm doing a video to let y'all know right now, man, cherish life as much as you can. Like me and my son had a beautiful day today. Big ticket show, we was with Snoop from The Wire, we was chilling. And 3 o'clock today, a split second, my house is gone. I just got out the hospital. I got this bruise on my head. I wish I could replace the pain with my son, though. I wish he was the one that was doing the video and I was still in ICU.
And Chesley, as a parent, you can only imagine that that's a parent's worst nightmare, but it is also a story of survival. And Trey, he recorded that video after he found his phone. He says he crawled through the rubble of his leveled home, finding his cell phone to record that video. And Chesley, we know the National Weather Service will be in this neighborhood surveying what's left in the aftermath of that tornado. Chesley?
Absolutely. When you look around that neighborhood right there, obviously a tornado has struck down, especially over his home. Do you see any other homes damaged like that, or was it just his house?
Well, Chesley, from what we can see, his home was the only one leveled by that tornado. A few homes nearby, you see some of the siding coming off some of the homes, a few roofs partially damaged, but his home is pretty much the only one that is badly damaged by that tornado, pretty much destroyed. You see a few pieces of tree limbs in a few of the neighbors' homes' front yards, but that's pretty much it. We also saw the Office of Insurance Commissioners going through the neighborhood, letting neighbors know you just really want to be careful when you are contacted by contractors when you're in the process of repairing your home at this point, Chesley.
All right, sounds all right. Thanks a lot, Ariana. I really appreciate that report. Stay safe out there. Let's take a look at our forecast for today. And it's today, folks, that we'll see another round of these thunderstorms pushing through our forecast area. We are under an 11Alive weather impact alert, again, from 10 a.m. to about 4 p.m. We'll see some thunderstorms pushing through the area. After 4, things will begin to clear out. You can see we got better days ahead. Sunshine coming our way as we head into Saturday. 81 degrees will be the high temperature. Very low threat for the rain coming our way on Sunday. That'll be more towards Sunday afternoon or toward the evening. 82 degrees will be the high temperature. And then warming up as we head into next week. We're looking at 85 degrees for a high temperature on Monday, looking at 87 by Tuesday. We'll be looking at temperatures well into the 80s by Wednesday and Thursday, with a slight chance of rain coming back to us late Wednesday going into Thursday, with 88 degrees for a high. Remember, if you can get your live weather radar extended forecast on your time, 11Alive Impact 24/7 right here exclusively on 11Alive Plus. Stay tuned or stay informed with all your local weather impacts. You can find weather impact alerts right there on the bottom bar of your screen there, and you can tune in. But right now, you just want to sit back, relax, and watch the take. All right, this Memorial Day holiday is over, but that just means GDOT is back on the scene with a list of its projects. As we do every Friday, we want to welcome in GDOT spokesperson Natalie Dale. Welcome back to the show, Natalie. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Fridays have become my favorite. It's always good to sit down with you.
All right. Hopefully those storms haven't impacted you too much, right? You haven't had any problems with those storms, have you?
Well, we always say weather dependent. So some of the projects that we have, the movements, the big openings are all weather dependent. And you just said the magic words, rain, 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 and rain. So weather dependent. We are going to have a big movement tonight over into tomorrow morning on our I-285, I-20 east side interchange project. So weather dependent, we'll be opening the I-285 southbound to I-20 eastbound flyover ramp. So if you travel this area tomorrow morning, it may look a little different. We try to do these on the weekend so it doesn't take Monday morning commuters by storm. But what that means is the entrance to that ramp is now pulled a little further back. Think about the work we did at I-285 400. Those entrances are just pulled back a little bit to separate that traffic, give you a better ride through there. So fingers crossed we're going to get that done tonight.
So you're going to open more lanes there so more people can get through. That's essentially what's going to take place?
Well, you know, we've been working through this list of interchange bottlenecks that we have, of the top 100 interchange bottlenecks nationwide. We have about 9 or 10, depending on the year, on that top list. I-285 on the east side, I-285 and 20 on the east side and on the west side, which we've begun work on. The 285 400 one, that after we opened that project, dropped about 20 spots on the list. So again, we're just moving throughout the metro, throughout the state, working on these freight bottlenecks to get that very important freight to the state of Georgia moving smoothly, keep our commuters safe.
Gotcha. All right, we'll stay with the weather theme. You know, the official start of hurricane season starts here pretty soon, June 1st. You guys were pretty busy with this last year. How ready are you this year?
You know, we are still busy. There are areas, you know, it's hard to really think about if you are only in Metro Atlanta, but South Georgia really took a big hit from Helene last year. We are still cleaning up. There are communities that are still cleaning up from that. A very expensive effort on behalf of the state and on the federal government to make sure that South Georgia gets what it needs to get going again. And so we plan ahead of these hurricane seasons, winter weather seasons. So while the Atlantic hurricane season technically does run June through the end of the fall, Georgia doesn't typically see the impacts from this until later. But now is the time to be prepared. We are having meetings as an agency, making sure that we're prepared should we get hit again in Georgia, should we get not just hit in the coastal region or South Georgia, but we know how those storms can blow up through the middle of the state and cause flooding, down trees. So throughout the state, all of our crews we've had dry runs to make sure that we are prepared. So we want to ask the citizens of Georgia to do the same as well. Make sure that you're prepared. Make sure, check out GEMA for their hurricane readiness kit. So make sure you're prepared now, so as we move into the summer and into the fall, that you have a plan and you have materials should Georgia get an impact from a hurricane again.
All right, Natalie Dale, always appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us every Friday. Really appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Stay with us, folks. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. President Donald Trump heading to Pennsylvania today for a rally at U.S. Steel amid another twist in the president's trade policy. On again, off again tariffs, meeting off and on again court decisions. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr, who's been covering politics for years now. And Alice, good morning to you. First of all, I got to ask you, how much of the timing of this trip is tied to that new federal appeals court decision, which pulls a lower court, or puts a lower court ruling on hold?
They're not tied. This is coincidental today. President Trump had announced this trip to U.S. Steel a week ago today, and the ruling just came down yesterday. But the timing really does point to the central theme of President Trump's economic agenda, which is these tariffs. And then, of course, steel is one of the areas where the president has been trying to promote U.S. interests. There are still steel, aluminum, and auto tariffs that will remain no matter what happens with this court ruling that's going back and forth. But the court ruling now specifically is putting on hold that lower court's decision that essentially blocked most of the other tariffs that President Trump had put into effect by executive order since he's come into office, because they said he'd exceeded his authority in using emergency powers and sidestepping input from Congress. President Trump slammed the ruling overnight, saying if it stands, he believes it would completely destroy presidential power, and arguing that getting congressional approval for tariffs would dramatically slow the process as his administration is negotiating trade deals with world leaders. Chesley.
Yeah, with this new court decision, Alice, what immediate impacts could businesses see from this that rely on these imported goods?
Yeah, so the case was initially brought by some small business owners who have been arguing. NBC News spoke with the lead plaintiff, who owns a small New York-based wine company, and he just said that the tariffs are a cash flow killer, is how he put it, particularly for small businesses. And he said that this kind of uncertainty is terrible for businesses. So while you have the initial kind of weight of these companies having to pay the import taxes, for example, a wine company that is dealing with increased taxes to bring in imported wines, that's one thing. But then not knowing exactly where the tariffs are going to be from one week to the next, as President Trump has been negotiating and has moved those rates around, he said is just kind of impossible for business to plan and put one foot in front of the other. And the Trump administration has been clear that they do have other alternative means of levying these tariffs, even if they lose in the courtroom, which they think they're going to win. There are other ways that they could go about this, and so that uncertainty remains for small business owners. Chesley.
Got it. All right, Alice, thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate it. We'll see you back here again next week. All right, more concerns over safety at MARTA stations and on MARTA trains. Early Monday, Atlanta police responded to reports of a shooting in the area of Midtown Station. Detectives think it started from an argument between two people who knew each other that escalated into gunfire, leading to a woman possibly being shot unintentionally. The victim was taken to the hospital. MARTA police detained a possible suspect. Incidents like these continue to raise public concern, of course, about riding safety and what rights victims have should they find themselves in the crossfire. Joining us now this morning is Andrew Rogers, a crime attorney based here in Atlanta. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chesley. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Let's start off with some comments made by MARTA Police Chief, told to 11Alive earlier this month when we asked about the safety concerns. Take a listen to this.
The perception of crime is sometimes worse than the reality. As of almost June now, we're almost 40% down in violent crime on MARTA this year. Unfortunately, we still have people that use guns for conflict resolution, and we'll have to deal with that.
Andrew, what's your take on the police chief's comments there?
Well, generally statistics can mean a lot of different things. And while I'm certainly supportive of people riding MARTA, especially those who have no other options, I think it's important to understand that while there may be a drop recently in crime, and I'm not sure what statistics exactly are being analyzed there, you can go on MARTA's website and look at their 5-year comparison of crime and see that there is certainly a trend of rising crime. And I think it would be more helpful, excuse me, to look at a full 12 months history rather than the past 4 or 5 months.
What is MARTA's legal duty to take care of its patrons?
Well, it has been the long-standing law in Georgia that any business owner or property owner who invites the public onto their property for business purposes is responsible for keeping those invitees, they're called business invitees, safe. And they're required to take reasonable steps in the light of dangers they're aware of to protect those people that are coming onto the property and typically don't know what the owner knows about the potential for risk of harm there. That's changed recently, drastically changed under the governor's new tort reform, making it more difficult, frankly, for negligent and careless property owners to be held accountable when they fail to or choose to not protect against dangers that they're aware of.
You know, several of these incidents hit when possible security gaps. From your perspective, what policy or safety improvements do you see or suggest that MARTA may need?
Well, it's a good question because MARTA is such a massive system with so many different places for the public to interact with the system. There seems to be a focus on train stations, which is important because the train stations, typically the ones further out from downtown, are large pieces of property where typically there are apartment communities nearby where the riders are on foot moving from the train stations to their apartments. And we've represented multiple victims of sexual assault who were attacked walking from the train station through or nearby near wooded areas that are on MARTA property that need to be protected just as vigorously as the actual train stations. So it's a difficult problem for MARTA. They've got their own police department because they know of the potential for dangerous crime. Our experience has been that there can be a better job of patrolling and keeping a watch over those transitional areas between the stations and people's homes.
All right. Attorney Andrew Rogers, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you for your insight.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Folks, don't go anywhere. We got plenty more stories for you. This is The Take on 11Alive Plus. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back. It is Friday, and we're headed toward the weekend. It's almost here, and you know what that means. Another edition of 11Alive's Sunday political show, the Georgia Vote. It's on the way, right, folks? And show's co-host Zach Merchant joins us now, as he always does. And Zach, welcome back to the show. And what do you have in store for us this week?
Chesley, good morning, and thank you for the welcome back. I feel like we haven't done one of these in like a week, which feels like a long time. Always look forward to getting on the show with you. Of course, we are always working on our show to try to bring you and everybody who's watching the big interviews from the folks who are driving the political conversation in Georgia, and we're doing that again this weekend. So stop me if you've heard this before. We are just about 12 months away from the U.S. Senate primary next year. Long way away on the calendar, increasingly not so far away on the political calendar. Two major Republicans, Representative Buddy Carter and Insurance Commissioner John King, they are already formally in the race. This week, we are talking with John King one-on-one.
All right, so what did he tell you in the interview?
We covered a lot of ground. Of course, this is still kind of early days of the campaign, and it's a big state. There are a lot of issues. We try to touch on as many as we can. One of the ones that we discussed was where he sees himself fitting into the Republican Party of 2025. Now, of course, there are really two sort of centers of gravity inside the party in Georgia right now. There's Governor Brian Kemp, and there is President Donald Trump. At times, they have been on the same page. At times, though, and folks who watch politics closely in our state will remember these moments, at times they have not always seen eye to eye. We asked John King who he identifies with more, either Governor Kemp or President Trump. You can hear his answer in his own words on Sunday, but I don't think I'm giving too much away to say as sort of a synopsis. John King tried to thread the needle a little bit and align in some ways with both of those major prominent players in Republican politics.
You think a strategy like this can work?
We will see. We will see. And really that's up to the voters to decide. But we should note any candidate who can win the support of both Governor Brian Kemp and President Donald Trump, that would make them a very strong contender in the Republican Party and in the Republican primary. And then by proxy, too, if you're a strong contender through the primary, perhaps you do not have to go through a really long, protracted, and expensive primary battle, which could in turn help that candidate when they get to the general election contest in November of 2026 against Democratic incumbent Jon Ossoff. But the big question here is whether the governor and the president, A, decide they want to get together on a consensus endorsement candidate, and then B, whether they can actually get on the same page about who that candidate is. So two big questions we still do not yet have an answer to, but we, of course, will be watching closely.
Gotcha. You mentioned John King. He's the state's insurance commissioner. That topic was a big focus in this year's legislative session, right?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, you remember our conversations throughout the session when everybody was under the gold dome earlier this year. We talked a lot about Governor Brian Kemp's top legislative priority. Many people call it tort reform. That bill passed by a narrow margin. It has now been signed into law, but it was controversial as it was making its way through the state house. Many supporters argued the bill would decrease Georgians' insurance premiums and limit what the supporters argued were unfair, frivolous lawsuits that hurt Georgia businesses. But opponents, they disputed that vigorously. They claimed the bill would actually prevent people who had possibly been legitimately harmed from getting a full and fair day in court. We asked Insurance Commissioner John King directly whether this bill would lower Georgians' insurance premiums. You can hear his answer in his own words this Sunday morning.
We also talked a lot about the governor's race. Anything latest on that race?
Yeah, and we got about 15, 20 seconds left, so I'm going to try to get through this quickly. So we're going to speed through it here. Here's what you got to know. It's a date on the calendar at the end of this month. It's June 30th. Why is that important? Because it's the end of the current fundraising period. So right now we've got a handful of prominent candidates in the governor's race. There are others, both on the Republican and the Democratic side, that could be getting in. We're not sure. Look for that June 30th date to be the time where, after that period, that disclosure period ends, you may see some more getting into this race. 2026 going to be a very busy, very big year in Georgia politics.
Sounds like it. Zach, and you'll be here to tell us all about it. Really appreciate it. And you can join Zach and Faith Jesse on the Georgia Vote. Takes place at 11 o'clock right here on 11Alive Plus Sunday morning. Check them out. All right, back with my final take right after this. You're watching 11Alive Plus. 11Alive weather impact alert for today, folks. Between the hours of 10 and about 4 o'clock this afternoon, we could be seeing strong severe thunderstorms move through the area thanks to a cold front that's going to push through. That same front will help to dry us out as we head into the weekend. You're looking at 81 degrees for the high on Saturday under mostly sunny skies. We'll have the sunshine around early on Sunday, but then late some clouds will move in. We'll have a very weak chance for an isolated shower. Most of us should stay dry, and then warming up as we head into next week. 87 for the high on Tuesday under mostly sunny skies. Chance of rain comes back to us by Wednesday and Thursday. Very low threat, but temperatures will be approaching the 90-degree mark by then. All right, before we go, my final take. You know, I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember this, but when I was a kid, at just about every football game or games in general, you had a person or a group of people holding up a sign that read John 3:16, the scripture. Unfortunately, that day is gone. Those signs have been replaced by much harsher words. In fact, Bookies.com recently released a report ranking NFL fan base and their use of profanity. And I'm sure you want to know where Falcon fans rank in the list. Well, out of 32 teams, the Falcons fell right there in the middle, about 14. Although the Falcons fans haven't had much to cheer about, fans' use of bad words may be tempered by the hopes of a new rookie quarterback. The top 3 teams using curse words, well, number 1, the New York Jets, and that's understandable, haven't won since Joe Namath. Number 2, the champs, Philadelphia Eagles, but that's everyday language up there. And I lived in Buffalo for at least 4 years. I understand Bill's Mafia. I understand. It's a blue-collar town. Town's passionate about their fans, loyal, and sometimes crazy. Last on the list, well, using profanity, would be the back-to-back champions in recent years, the Kansas City Chiefs. Go figure, right? That's all we have for you today, folks. Make sure you have a great day and try to encourage folks not to use profanity, especially watching games. We've got little children watching now, and Taylor Swift on the scene. You know, want to keep it pure. Have a great day.